5 a.m. to get that seat?
I'm a New Yorker. I know what to do.
I guess it's still morning, is it? Seems like we've been here a long time already today. Maria? Right here. Oh, okay, right next to you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and I especially want to welcome our friends who are so helpful in terms of this issue, in terms of the outside mobilization for a free internet. I'm so pleased to welcome some of our friends over from the Senate, many who started in the Congress of the United States in the House of Representatives. Leader Schumer, Senator Markey, Senator Cantwell, and Senator Wyden. Welcome, and thank you for your leadership. I want to, we'll be hearing from some of our members, Representative Doyle, leader on this issue and chairman of the subcommittee on energy and commerce that deals with net neutrality, the chairman of the committee, Frank Pallone. Thank you, Mr. Pallone, for being here. Rep. Clark, vice chair of the committee, who's here to speak on this subject. And I particularly want to acknowledge Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, who has been the godmother of this issue for so many years, when she was chair, a ranking member of the committee that Mr. Doyle now chairs. Thank you, Congresswoman Eshoo, for your extraordinary leadership on this. Again, it's an honor to be with members of Congress from both sides of the Capitol to save the Internet. We salute Representative Mike Doyle, Mr. Chairman, for his relentless leadership to protect net neutrality. We are thrilled to be with so many advocates across the country. Millions of Americans are organized, mobilized, and they made the difference in the fights that we've had. Mr. Markey's CRA in the Senate last year, but even before that, under Congresswoman Eshoo's leadership, the issue to speak out in terms of what the Federal Communications Commission was doing. Young people in particular get it. This is about your jobs and your future. So the free and open internet is a pillar of so many things, our democracy, our economic possibilities, entrepreneurship, and the rest, creating opportunities and empowering communities. A full 86% of Americans oppose the Trump assault on net neutrality, including 82% of Republicans. That's hopeful. With the Save the Internet Act, Democrats are honoring the will of the people and restoring the protections that do this. Stop unjust discriminatory practices by ISPs that try to throttle the public's browsing speed, block your internet access, and increase your costs. This is about freedom. It's about cost. Giving entrepreneurs and small businesses a level playing field and ensuring American innovation can continue to be the envy of the world. This legislation also brings the power of the internet to every corner of the country, from rural America to our cities. We must close the urban-rural digital divide, guaranteeing better, cheaper internet so that we can create jobs and unlock the economic potential for all. Rural areas, inner cities, for all. Supporting this bill means supporting our democracy, ensuring that the voices of the public are heard, their will is respected, and the internet remains free and open to all. We call on our Republican colleagues, and many Republicans in the country support this legislation and have in the United States Senate already, to join in supporting us by restoring net neutrality. With that, I'm very pleased. Once again, on many occasions, I've had the honor of welcoming back to the House of Representatives our former colleague, a source of pride to all of us who served with him, the Democratic leader of the Senate, Mr. Schumer.
Thank you, Leader Pelosi. And I'd like to thank all of my Senate colleagues, our House colleagues. None of the House colleagues have served in the Senate. We did our service with you.
We did have one, Claude Pepper.
Claude Pepper. Yes, we had Claude Pepper. We did, yes.
Nobody's
Anyone know who he is? I spoke to the young Democrats in Manhattan and mentioned Bella Abzug, and they said, who? Shows you. Anyway.
This too will be our fate.
So anyway, I want to thank all of my colleagues for being here, the advocates, business leaders, and everyday working Americans, making their voices heard. Saving the internet has been a grassroots effort if there ever was one, because average folks understand that they do not want their costs of using the internet to go up. They do not want their freedom to be constricted. If they should decide to start up a business, they want to be on an equal playing field with the big boys. There are so many reasons that we need net neutrality. You know, when we don't let electric companies, also a monopoly, say you can charge this house one rate and the same house next door another rate. We don't let our highways, even when they're privatized, say you can charge this car one rate, you can charge that car another. We need the same rules on the internet. It's got to be open and free and fair. It's got to give the average person a break. And last spring, our colleagues in the United States Senate were given that choice to side with the average person rather than the big special interests, to side with protecting middle-class families and consumers and entrepreneurs rather than the big boys. Unfortunately, all but 3 Senate Republicans voted on behalf of the special interests. But Democrats voted on behalf of the American people, who have been calling and writing and texting and tweeting and posting, urging the Senate to pass legislation to undo the FCC's horrible decision. Believe it or not, it passed the Senate. It did, because of the hard work of my colleagues who were standing here. But unfortunately, then a Republican-led House of Representatives just shelved it. So now we have a Democratic House, and Republicans will have a second chance. There are second chances to right the Trump administration's wrong. You can bet that Democrats will continue to side with hardworking Americans who pay their cell phone bills, pay their internet bills each month. Republicans should join us instead of siding with the executives at the big broadband providers who send out the bills. And this is a real bipartisan effort to right the administration's wrong and protect the free and open internet. We say to the millions of Americans who care about this, continue to let your representatives and your senators know how you feel, because your power, with your power behind us, we can succeed. Thank you. And now it is my honor to call on a great Congress member from the neighboring state and a great Steelers fan, Representative Doyle.
Thank you. This is a great morning, and I'm very happy to be here with our Speaker and Leader Schumer, Chairman Pallone, Ranking Member Cantwell, and all the other members you see behind us in supporting us. I also want to thank my partner, Ed Markey, in this endeavor, and my dear friend and colleague, Anna Eshoo, who for many years has championed this issue. Thanks, Anna. We've been working on this issue for a long time. We all believe very strongly in the promise and necessity of a free and open internet, and we've worked hard for more than a decade to see that vision come to fruition. We're here today to announce the Save the Internet Act, legislation which restores popular, bipartisan, common sense net neutrality protections and puts a cop back on the beat to protect consumers, small businesses, and competitors from unjust and unreasonable practices by internet service providers. The Save the Internet Act would enact true net neutrality protections by codifying the FCC's 2015 Open Internet Order as a new freestanding section of law that would ensure the internet remains an open platform for innovation and competition. Net neutrality is one of the most important digital rights issues we face today, and the internet is among the most influential and important inventions ever created. Today, it touches almost all aspects of our economy, culture, and politics. And Americans around the country overwhelmingly support strong net neutrality rules on a bipartisan basis. People understand that their ISPs have far too much control over their connection to the internet and the services that they care about. So whether it's slowing down Netflix, blocking access to innovative mobile services, or adopting anti-competitive zero rating policies, the track record for ISPs on this issue is clear. And consumers and small businesses want the protections and the certainty that strong net neutrality rules provide. I'm proud to be introducing this bill along with Senator Markey, who has been a champion for free and open internet. Together, we hope to advance this legislation through the Congress and restore these essential protections for all Americans. And it's now my great pleasure. Oh, and I also want to also mention we have many participating organizations that have worked hard with us throughout the years for this and continue to work for it. The Center for Media Justice, Color of Change, Consumer Reports, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, Free Press, the National Hispanic Media Coalition, Open Tech Institute, and Public Knowledge. All of these organizations have been working tirelessly over the last decade to bring bipartisan net neutrality rules back to consumers and small businesses, and we thank them all for their participation. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce a former House member and my colleague, Ed Markey.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael, so much. Thank you for your incredible leadership on this issue. Thank you to our great leaders, Speaker Pelosi, Leader Schumer, and to Frank Pallone, and to Maria Cantwell, to Yvette Clarke, to Ron Wyden, and to all the groups who are out here, and back to the beginning of Recorded Internet Time, to Anna Eshoo for all of her work on this issue there from the beginning of time. So we have a Internet Time. Internet Time.
That would be 30 years.
Whether it is in the halls of Congress or in the courts, we will not stop fighting until net neutrality is fully restored. Today we take another important step in that fight. The fight to save the internet as we know it. A fight for innovation, for entrepreneurialism, for the American economy. A fight for free speech, the cornerstone of our democracy. The fight for net neutrality. And it is a fight that we can win, because another way of saying net neutrality is non-discrimination against the smallest companies, against the smallest voices within our society. We are standing and fighting for them here today, and we will not stop until we win. Last year, in an historic bipartisan CRA vote of 52 to 47 in the Senate, we sent a message to President Trump about what a free and open internet means. Free of corporate control, open to all who want to communicate, engage, and innovate. This bill does what the American people want. It returns us to the rules that ensures that they are not subject to higher prices or slower internet speeds or even blocked websites because the big broadband providers want to pump up their profits. Nearly every single member of the Senate Democratic Caucus is a co-sponsor of our new legislation, the Save the Internet Act. Last year, we sent a message on net neutrality to Donald Trump, and today we send another. This Congress won't fall to his special interest agenda and his broadband baron allies. Instead, we will do right by the people who sent us here and protect the internet as we know it. We are on the right side of history, and we will not give up this fight. It begins today, and this coalition will not stop until we win. So let me now turn and introduce the chairman of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, my great friend Frank Pallone.
Thank you, Senator. I just want to, I can't emphasize enough how important this is, and that's why I'm so pleased that all of our colleagues and our House and Senate leadership are here joining us today. We use the term Save the Internet Act, but you know, again, the internet, we're not talking about a machine, we're not talking about a piece of equipment, we're talking about what the country stands for. And so when we talk about saving the internet, we're talking about saving the marketplace. We're talking about saving our democracy. It's that important an issue, net neutrality. And just as a few examples, you know, I know that when we were going around, when the FCC decided to repeal net neutrality, and hearing all these voices at home, you know, I would hear from small business who said that the only reason I was successful with my small business was because of the free and open internet. Or I remember going on a relatively conservative talk show, and they were concerned about the ideology, about how, you know, conservative voices might be shut out if we don't have net neutrality. Or people, I remember going to the public library in my hometown where people were going there to, you know, look for a job, and that was their way of, you know, it's the way young people, many people now, actually find a job, and concerned that if we eliminated net neutrality, they would have a harder time finding a job. So this is so important in terms of our democracy, innovation, all the things that my colleagues have talked about. But the second thing I wanted to mention briefly, because Nancy Pelosi mentioned the will of the people. I believe very strongly that the way the FCC proceeded in repealing net neutrality was just totally contrary to the will of the people. You know, the FCC is supposed to be an independent agency, and they were under previous administrations, but they are not now. Chairman Pai and spokespeople for President Trump made it quite clear before they even started to have hearings on this repeal rule that they were going to repeal net neutrality. 24 million people wrote to the FCC or contacted the FCC and said, do not repeal net neutrality, and they completely ignored them. They had made up their mind from the beginning, and that's not the way they're supposed to proceed. So I am so pleased today that we're moving ahead, and we're going to guarantee in the Energy and Commerce Committee that we move quickly on this legislation to save the internet because of its importance. And now I want to yield to my colleague from the Senate, again, a member of the House that we're so pleased to work with, Maria Cantwell.
Thank you, Frank. Well, it's a pleasure to be here with my colleagues, Speaker Pelosi, Leader Schumer, Representative Doyle, Senators Markey, Representative Plone. Look forward to working with you on a whole myriad of issues in the Commerce Committee. Obviously, Representative Clark, Senator Wyden, and so many of our colleagues behind us. Nancy Pelosi becoming Speaker and taking over the House of Representatives has breathed new life into the battle for an open internet. We applaud that our colleagues have been able to now bring focus, and I'm going to introduce Representative Clark in a minute, who is busy whipping members to support this legislation. But I think we're going to find out, as we already did in the Senate, that we're pretty unified on our side of the aisle, that we believe that protecting consumers from price gouging on the internet, a vital tool for communication today, is essential. And while we were able to gain bipartisan support in the United States Senate, we hope that this large-scale debate in the House of Representatives will also gain some bipartisan support and the attention of the American public so we can continue. 5 states now have laws on net neutrality, and some of them have been passing legislation in bipartisan fashion. I think there's another 30 states that are considering this legislation, ideas of protecting the internet. So it's accurate to say the debate about an open internet is not going away. In fact, it just got a few more logs thrown on the fire. Why is this so critical? Many of my colleagues already mentioned why it's so critical for people just not to be gouged by their cable companies. And obviously, I think everybody in this room can have a little bit of empathy for that. But it is also important for an internet economy as next generation businesses come along, whether that is in the area of online medicine, or God forbid an emergency room that just can't get an x-ray in time because they didn't pay for a fast lane, or whether that's a college student studying in their dorm room who also get throttled back at a key time that they need to study for the final exam. Getting access to information is life-saving and critical for businesses. And so we stand today for the innovation economy that represents more than $1 billion already, and how important it is for them not to be throttled back by somebody who gets to make arbitrary decisions about access to broadband. So I hope our colleagues in the House will be loud and proud of this legislation. We look forward to seeing how we can help in getting it passed in the United States Senate. And now I turn it over to my colleague, Representative Clark.
Thank you very much, Senator, and let me thank the leadership you see assembled here, as well as my colleagues and the advocates for being here as we announce to you that we are here to save the internet. Save the internet for today, tomorrow, and for future generations. The Republican FCC has dismantled net neutrality, saddling consumers with higher costs and less choice, throttling competition and punishing entrepreneurs, small businesses, communities of color, and other Americans who are vulnerable and disenfranchised. This is the 21st century issue of equity. And what we are saying here today is that we will not allow our internet to be taken over by those who would profit at the expense of our values for democracy, First Amendment rights, entrepreneurship, and innovation. Democrats promise to restore open, unrestricted access to the internet and build out high-speed internet for every community across this nation, be they rural, be they towns, be they small cities, be they schools or businesses. America is still waiting for it. Today, we are keeping our promise to the American people, as has already been stated, and we are proud to announce the introduction of the Save the Internet Act. Here's what we know. As prices go up and flexibility of use drops, the impact will be felt by most of those with less money to spend on preserving internet access. People like my constituents in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Reducing effective internet access has a profound impact on low to moderate income individuals. Government services at all levels are increasingly moving online. If you struggle with multiple jobs or the travel time through public transit necessary to get to government offices, reducing access to the internet means reducing access to vital services. Additionally, internet access has become critically important to finding jobs, as has already been stated by Senator Cantwell. According to the Pew Research Center, and for many, smartphones are dominating how folks actually hunt for jobs. Finding work without adequate online access is frankly difficult. Lastly, if you have young children, you know that internet access is virtually mandatory at school, work, and at play, whether to do research, gain access to course materials, and more. The bill we are introducing today would make life easier for my constituents in Brownsville, Brooklyn. The Save the Internet Act creates popular, bipartisan, and targeted net neutrality protections and places a cop on the beat to protect consumers, small businesses, and competition from abusive practices of internet service providers. This act mirrors the similar bipartisan Congressional Review Act legislation that passed the Senate last Congress and has had 182 bipartisan signers on the discharge petition in the House. So I will be whipping. The majority of Americans oppose the FCC's rollback of the same protections that would be enacted by the Save the Internet Act. The Save the Internet Act would revive necessary common sense provisions for defending the internet while stopping the FCC from applying more than 700 regulations under the Communications Act that are unnecessary to protecting an open internet, such as rate setting. And we would enact true net neutrality protections without loopholes that are designed for today and tomorrow. I have heard from hundreds of my constituents across the breadth and depth of my district, and their message is clear. Our message is clear. It is time for net neutrality. It is time for the Save the Internet Act. Having said that, I now yield to the gentleman, Senator Wyden.
Thank you. And after a basketball game, my mother would always say, "Dear, make sure you're running with the right crowd." I'm looking around here. I am running with the best crowd. And I want to thank them all for making this event possible. I'm just going to make a quick comment before I have the honor of throwing it to our outstanding speaker, Speaker Pelosi, for our wrap-up. Yesterday, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web, came in for a little chat, just a visit. And the very first point he brought up was the urgency of protecting net neutrality. That's because without net neutrality, special interests can upend the free and open internet and decide that even after you pay your internet access fee, you can't go where you want, when you want, and how you want online. Now, we've all been talking about how this battle started shortly after the earth cooled, and just one little bit of personal history. Eddie Markey introduced the first net neutrality bill in the House. I wrote the first one in the Senate when I had a full head of hair and rugged good looks. And the reason all of us have been in this together, Anna Eshoo represented my late mom in Palo Alto, the reason all of us have been in this is because of our belief that the big cable companies should not be able to pick and choose which videos you get to watch or which articles you can read by favoring one outlet over another. And to make sure that doesn't happen, Congress has to pass the Save the Internet Act, and I am happy to throw this now for closing to our outstanding speaker, my friend, former neighbor in the House, Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you, Senator Wyden. I just wonder if your mother's influence in Anna's district encouraged her to run with the right crowd. I thank all of our participants here today. I want to acknowledge that Elliot Engel, we know him as the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, but he is also a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee. Debbie Dingell was just with us until a moment ago. I think she had to go to the floor. Doris Matsui is here of California, a member of the committee. Jerry McNerney of California, a member of the committee. I say that with pride, Mr. Chairman, because California has passed a net neutrality bill, as well as a privacy bill on the internet as well. So I thank them for their leadership, all of them, for being here, and join Chairman Doyle in acknowledging the participating organizations. The outside mobilization will be essential to the success that we have. Our inside maneuvering important. And what will that be? Mr. Chairman Doyle will be having hearings on this legislation imminently. Next week. Following that, a markup of the bill, and then following that, a markup in full committee under leadership of Mr. Pallone. Following that, the bill will come to the floor. So in a matter of weeks, we will act upon this. And I thank Senator Cantwell for kind remarks, but it's about the Democratic majority that has made the difference. However, we want this to be as bipartisan as possible because we know it is so in the public view. Anna has given us some instructions over our shoulders. I didn't know if she wanted to weigh in for a moment about this.
I think this effort has been very well explained this morning, but I think that there's something that needs to be noted. This is a two-page bill. A two-page bill. It has all the clarity in the world. There should not be any excuses on the part of any member of Congress because this has full clarity. It was tested in the courts and won each time. And so what is in this bill is our declaration of independence of the big boys. And that's what it is, and I look forward to its passage. Yes, and I'd also like to acknowledge that the outstanding commissioner from the FCC, Jessica Rosenworcel, is here, and we're so proud of her service and her fight at the FCC. Thank you, everyone.
Thank thank you very much to all of our participants here. At one stage or another, they will be weighing in, and we would just like to remind the chairman of the FCC to hear the voices of the 24 million people who wrote in a louder way than he hears the voice of his former employer. With that, we thank all of you for coming. Upward and onward, thank you to all the participants for saving the internet. I, too, had a visit for Sir Tim yesterday, 30 years since he invented the World Wide Web. I said, how are we doing? So, well, in the first couple of decades, it was really free and open. Now we have to make sure it continues to be, not only from the ISFs, ISPs, but also from what the impact is of algorithms and the rest to decide what goes forward. We want it free, we want it open, we want it democratic, and we want it low cost for everyone. Thank you all very much.